At least Omashu's looking pretty good. Very lively too. The streets themselves look a little bit too clean, but other than that, this market area seems very lived in. That's something even the animated pieces of Avatar media don't always excel at. By which I mean Korra. The vacant, dead streets of Republic City still haunt my nightmares.
Lu and Gong are idiots. I hate them and their stupid mustaches.
So there goes Jet. He's gone now. Bye, Jet. And boom, right away, Aang sees that mysterious airbender fellow flying around. It's Teo, by the way. And along the way, they run into this chap. Alright, I have to give the show props because it's a cool detail. This is actually the Cabbage Merchant's original voice actor reprising the same role in live action. I will never stop criticizing this show for skimping out on really important details, character traits, story beats. But when it comes to the small Easter eggs and bits and pieces of fan service, sometimes they're right on the money. Interesting that he wasn't present in the gate scene though. That was his first appearance originally and set up the whole comedy comes in threes cabbage bit throughout the episode. After that point, there was a time where they crashed into his cabbage cart, and finally it happened off screen at the very end of the episode as a nice little bow to wrap up the joke and episode with. Also, I know it's going to sound stupid, but the Cabbage Merchant's presence in that first scene was very important to the plot. No, I'm fucking serious. We know that Omashu is a stronghold. One of the very last in the entire world that's managed to withstand the war. Only the North Pole and Ba Sing Se are its equals in this regard. How did they manage this? Well, besides being in an easily defensible position, being surrounded by chasms on all sides with only one entrance into the city, through the Cabbage Merchant, we see that security is incredibly strict, not even allowing so much as one cabbage slug into their city out of fear of famine. Instantly, you establish how such a place can survive the war. If the city is easily defended, then the only way in would be spies, and security seems far too tight to allow that. There was a scene in this show with some vegetable cart being thrown over the cliff's edge, but there was no context for it given outside of Jet just saying they don't like outsiders. I wonder how consistent the show will be with this. So they finally catch up to Teo and Aang realizes he's not an airbender. Okay, so in the original show, the entire reason Teo was flying around in his chair was because when he and his father moved into the abandoned Northern Air Temple, the Mechanist saw the murals of the air nomads gliding around and was inspired by them to let his son and the rest of his people fly. If Teo couldn't walk anymore, then he and all of his people would learn to fly and be on the same level. It was cute. Now, I guess he must have been inspired by the existence and history of air nomads in general. It's not impossible, but the original Mechanist actually had old airbender gliders to work with as a base. I think that's kind of important if you have very little experience in aerodynamics. Do you want to know why Teo is flying now? Because we needed an excuse to land in Omashu. Yeah, all of a sudden that narrative thrust you injected into the story at the cost of giving the Avatar precognition is biting you in the ass, because now every stop you take needs a serious justification, or else people will wonder what the hell we're doing putzing about when we're supposed to be in a race against the clock to get to the North Pole. This wouldn't be a problem if you had simply done what the original show did, and have Roku give Aang the narrative thrust at his temple, and make it actually about the fucking comet instead of the water tribe. This isn't just some place that Aang wanted to visit so he could ride the mail carts with his new friends like he did with his good friend Boomy all those years ago, which incidentally happens to be important to later events in the plot. Now he felt like he had to stop because he thought he saw an airbender. And that's so unthinkably important that it absolutely warranted a pit stop. That's why Teo was flying so far outside of the city when he would have basically no reason to. And why he's even flying at all in a location that doesn't seem to benefit from flight in the same way as the Northern Air Temple. How does he even get altitude? Does he roll up to the top of the mountain every time he wants to take off? But anyway, now that the case of mistaken identity has been made clear, what's stopping them from hopping on Appa and just leaving this? Oh my goodness! Blammo! Kablam! Bang! In basically no time at all, a random explosion completely changes the trajectory of all of our characters and the progression of the plot. I guess that explosion was caused by the Mechanist and his crazy contraptions. Probably blew off a few more fingers with that one, huh buddy? Oh no, this is being played completely straight and serious. Apparently this was a straight up terrorist bombing? Omashu has fucking terrorists?
Nothing the Fire Nation does is an accident.
Fire Nation terrorists?
Their spies are everywhere in the city.
Who are everywhere in the city? Okay, I can kind of understand where they were coming from and wanting to combine these episodes, but the Northern Air Temple plot simply does not work in Omashu. OG Mechanist was in a very bad position. His original home was flooded, and his people were left with nothing. And as soon as he finds a place worthy of being a new home for his people, the Fire Nation rolls right up on it and starts making demands by threatening him and his people. Doing the same thing in Omashu would have dramatically different results because Omashu is defended. The Northern Air Temple was inhabited by nothing but defenseless refugees who had already been pushed down once. There's no cops in the streets of an abandoned temple. The Mechanist's hands were tied. Well, you know, what was left of them. It's now so much harder to justify his actions in making machines for the Fire Nation to keep his people safe when Omashu is already meant to be doing that. And if it's incapable of doing that, which is what the show seems to be implying, then how the hell has it survived the war? If there's Fire Nation spies all over this Earth Kingdom stronghold dropping bombs everywhere, then how the fuck is Boomy even still alive? What are you doing bombing random citizens? Kill the fucking king and his soldiers and the city is yours. Hell, why not bomb the gate and let some damn troops in? Later in the episode, it's revealed that these bombings are actually being carried out by Jet and his crew, but they're bombing Fire Nation hideouts. So the point still applies. These people are everywhere in the city. Despite Omashu's apparent hostility towards outsiders, the city is so compromised that it's uncontrollably infested with Fire Nation spies who have managed to strong-arm Sai, the Mechanist's name is Sai by the way, into making machine designs for them, including the war balloon? These two plot lines simply do not mix. Very quickly, I would say Teo is actually characterized better than even Katara is. The weird thing is that his primary character trait is being extremely bloodthirsty. Originally, Aang wasn't too sure about Teo, but warmed up to him once he realized that even though he wasn't a real airbender, he still had the spirit of one.
You could drop bombs on them, rain down destruction. Air power is their weakness, and you are air power.
Maybe Yang Chen would appreciate Teo's attitude towards the Fire Nation, but I don't know much about any other air nomad. This is a consistent attitude that Teo has, by the way. I'm not necessarily complaining since, hey, at least it's a fucking character trait which God knows this show struggles with. I just find it kind of odd considering the original show, and the fact that it doesn't really lead to anything, like any kind of conflict or disagreement. Like, he says that Aang should basically be used as a bomber pilot against the Firebenders, and Aang doesn't say anything at all. He just looks kind of mildly uncomfortable. Sokka comes in and is all jazzed at Sai's doohickeys and thingamajigs, and Teo talks him up, saying how he's responsible for maintaining things like the city's delivery system? That doesn't make any sense. It's made entirely of Earth. Why would you have a non-bender maintain a completely earthen structure used exclusively by Earthbenders? I mean, I guess he can be responsible for maintenance checks, but I don't know, that seems really weird. I honestly think they just included this line here to make Sai's presence in Omashu try to make more sense, and remind you that the mail system exists again, since we're not actually here specifically to write it before like the original. Though I feel like for new viewers just watching this for the first time over the original, the focus being brought to the mail system over and over again is just going to be confusing when it was integral to the plot of the original episode from the ground up. I also find Teo's dialogue to his father in this scene to be kind of unnatural. It feels manufactured in such a way to not only give exposition, but also set up Sai's inevitable betrayal by emphasizing his shame at hiding this from Teo. And again, the other characters just aren't involved. Sokka said whoa, and that led to a long-ass diatribe from Teo about how totally awesome his dad is, and how the Fire Nation sucks shit, and if everyone was as wicked sick as his dad, then the Fire Nation would be all puddles of goo. Oh hey, Sokka's wearing the Eclipse glasses here, that's cute. Again, they really like their Easter eggs and small details. I wish they liked, you know, good writing. Whatever, so they're about to leave, but Aang sees the big war as hell montage going on outside after the bombing, and is like, this situation's pretty fucked up, we should probably help them out. I don't mind Aang having these convictions, it's just that it's something that wouldn't and shouldn't need to be up for debate if the narrative structure wasn't damaged by the last episode. Most episodes, new locations, they'd involve Aang getting into some kind of situation with people who needed help, and of course he was happy to oblige, that's his whole job as the Avatar. But now because of the whole Vision Quest shit, we have to weigh our options and justify helping people, and even though the crisis in the North absolutely takes precedent, we're always going to have the lesser conflict win out because we need to have these episodes take place, otherwise they'd never land anywhere. If only they did what some other show did. Oh god, no, not this fucking scene. Okay, so we're back with Azula, shooting a bow. A fucking bow and arrow. I lack the words to articulate how stupid this is. Azula, you are a living flamethrower. You are a firebending prodigy. At a mere 14 years of age, you are one of the single strongest firebenders who has ever lived. Why in the world are you practicing your fucking archery? Do you need a bow and arrow to hit targets that fucking lightning won't? Why would you bother wasting time practicing with anything that isn't your bread and butter? Unless you already know about the eclipse and you're just really gearing up for non-firebending combat, I guess. It's just so stupid. And of course, we're just reinforcing what we saw earlier, that Azula is incredibly threatened by Ozai's compliments towards Zuko, and she's completely fallen for his manipulation. But she expands on her thought a bit. Zuko's been away for 3 years on an ocean cruise, while she's been at the palace doing everything Ozai asks of her. Azula, are you fucking jealous of Zuko?
You can't treat me like this. You can't treat me like Zuko!
The guy your father burned, scarred, disowned, and banished over basically nothing? Because you know what? I don't think this has to do with Ozai's compliment. I think this is something that's been brewing for a while now. Now let's just remind ourselves that Zuko was originally the one who felt this way towards Azula because, yeah, she was just amazing at everything and Ozai adored her. This episode has dealt such a massive blow to both of our primary Fire Nation antagonists. Zhao is an incompetent imbecile, and Azula is so insecure and easily manipulated that she's downright jealous of Zuko's banishment. That's not a case of her being incapable of understanding the nature of the situation in the way a small child might. She's obviously still meant to be an intelligent character. She's just really fucking stupid about this in particular. At least she correctly and astutely points out that the people in the Resistance were also stupid. Somehow even more stupid than her. Oh yeah, Mei and Ty Lee are also here. Ty Lee's alright. She's cute and has good energy when she's allowed to speak, which is not often, but Mei frankly looks ridiculous. Her hair especially, it doesn't translate very well to 3D at all. Like Azula, I find her to be miscast. Mei's original character design was sleek and sharp. She was tall, thin, and her features were very angular, and it fit with her personality and her whole knives thing. Compare that to Ty Lee, who is shorter, had more rounded and soft features, and very large expressive eyes in contrast to the thinner, more piercing eyes that Mei had. It's basic character design stuff. Now this actress has those softer and rounder features, and the same goes for Azula, who had a similar design philosophy in the original show. I wouldn't even say she's characterized especially well here. There's this little exchange where Azula is threatened by the idea of Zuko actually coming home and revoking her right to the throne, while Mei points out that he is technically first in line for the throne. Azula shoots her a look and Mei freezes up and immediately corrects herself. She maintains a monotone voice, but that's about it. I feel like in a similar situation in the cartoon, well, Azula would never be threatened by Zuko, and in fact was happy to welcome him as the future Fire Lord once he joined her, probably because she knew how to manipulate him even if he did take power, and gave herself an easy in to the throne if the Avatar somehow survived her attack, at no personal cost to herself since she was already the favorite child. But if it were to happen like this, then Mei wouldn't get all wide-eyed and scared of Azula. She'd probably roll her eyes, sigh, and blandly correct herself like she doesn't even care all that much, but is putting up appearances to keep Azula satisfied. So less, not that he deserves it, and more of a, not that he deserves it. This will be the beginning and ending of my character analysis of Mei and Ty Lee in this entire show, because they do fucking nothing besides standing here awkwardly next to Azula, as she's doing whatever asinine shit the show wants her to be doing. Oh yeah, and next we get this line that absolutely reeks of Azula.
But now he has hope, and that's dangerous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Azula very famously sees Zuko's desperate hopes of returning home as extremely dangerous, and definitely not something to take advantage of whatsoever. So you know, this line is just a little something to keep in mind for if they ever adapt that episode. Anyway, Azula ends the scene by being like, hey, maybe I can manipulate events to my liking from within the very palace by using Zhao, because, you know, events aren't already to her liking. Azula is very famously characterized by her struggles to attain power and acceptance from her father. Fuck you.